Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Knoll, and welcome back to our weekly episode of Battleground Casual, a show that is still not movie Battleground and still doesn't have a proper intro. My name is Aaron. I am, of course, the creative producer and host of Movie Battleground. But tonight, we are here to discuss movies, not debate them. Unfortunately, at the last minute, my normal co-host Matt Beer had to bow out a couple of weeks ago. If anyone who watched the show will remember, he had severe internet issues that limited his ability to be a part of the show, connected to a major power outage in his area. And it seems like issues have started back up again, because if there's something that's persistent across the entire United States, it's that the power people can't do shit right. So unfortunately, he's not here. Filling in, I have Austin Howell, a member of the Movie Battleground. And spoiler alert, I normally don't spoil the weekly matches. As of this week, he is the new official number one contender in the Movie Battleground League, hence why he is here. Before we go ahead and bring in our panelists behind the scenes and jump into the main topic, I do have three things I want to say really quickly. The first is, Austin, how are you feeling now that you are the number one contender to take on Amaru Moses in the near future?
Yeah, no, it's cool. And looking back, sort of on the past sort of season and a half that I've been a part of, going from struggling at, I believe I was 2-3 at one point. I was really hurting, to bouncing back, getting back to the even point, getting a last chance opportunity again in another tournament as I did the first time, and then going three knockouts, really propelling myself in there. Finally getting to the number one contender spot, getting a little revenge on Henry Sanchez with that win, with him knocking me out of the first chance I had at a tournament opportunity. And I'm feeling good. Going in with four knockouts, and not that I think I'm going to knock out Amaru Moses in our title match. That would be damn near statistically impossible, trying to get 5 points in a row. But I'm confident I can put on a really good match. The progress I think I made in the Battleground has been significant. I'm confident in my skills to give him a good show. So I'm feeling good where I've been. I've always felt in my heart that I had the potential to be a championship level player, and I'm getting my shot.
Absolutely. So that is the first thing. The second thing is I want to give a big happy birthday to our own TMG's Papa West, Jacob West. Not only is he, of course, an esteemed member of the Battleground, tune in this upcoming Friday for a match that is nowhere near as important as title matches and number one contenders matches, but it is our 150th Movie Battleground episode, and it'll be myself versus Papa West in what was, I can say, a very entertaining match, to say the least. Check that one out this upcoming Friday. But happy birthday to him. It is his birthday today. Immediately after this show, if you have nothing better to do with your lives, he is doing a live stream with some members of the community, including myself, playing some games and having some fun. So tune in, check that out, play from home as well. The third thing is I want to say a huge congratulations to actor, writer, director Jonah Hill for curing anti-Semitism. Nobody thought you would be the one to do it, but you did it. For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, esteemed thinker in our era, Kanye West, has apparently claimed that he is over his anti-Semitism because he watched Jonah Hill in 21 Jump Street and thought he was hilarious.
Okay. Well, good to know for all the people on Facebook and all the red pillars online that we see, on TikTok that are joined in on the Kanye anti-Semitism. Yeah, all you need to do is go rewatch 21 Jump Street.
Go rewatch, and while you're at it, watch 22 Jump Street, because it's just as good.
It can only count as like extra credit, like an extra mental boost. So yeah, you might as well just go all in with the franchise, and maybe
and for any of you anti-Semites at home who are confused as to how the funny fat man or skinny man, depending on the year, on your screen could possibly be Jewish, here are three reasons why. A, he's in Hollywood. B, have you seen his beard? And C, his birth name is Jonah Feldstein. Of course he's Jewish. Come on now. No, but all jokes aside, I had to start off with a joke because that's what this movie was. Shazam, Fury of the Gods. We are talking spoilers tonight. We do have some more panelists joining us later potentially, but right now we have two other members here coming in, returning. I believe he was on the first episode we ever did of this show. He was also on the trial episode where it was just me and him talking for like 2.5 hours. We have Madi Raymond back once again talking Shazam. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I didn't realize that anti-Semitism was cured. This should be a much bigger news story. But
Well,
yeah, I mean,
if
I also
that's his
thought that
leading
maybe
lady, I was just going to
he'd
say,
have less hate against
let's
Koreans
go ahead
because
and
there's
make
Korean
20.
Jesus in that movie.
Let's make 23 Jump Street that Men in Black crossover, and we can cure racism too. So like, let's just
You know what?
get it
This
going.
is
Yeah.
If anything makes 23 Jump Street happen, it'll be to end racism. Like that.
Yeah.
That is the
absolutely.
No one wants to end racism more than
And you know
two
what?
white guys in suits.
Let's end Hollywood beefs. Let's replace Tommy Lee Jones because let's be real, he stopped giving a fuck 10 years ago with Chris Rock. Let's just do it. Let's have Chris Rock, Will Smith, Channing Tatum, and Jonah Hill end anti-Semitism and racism.
And the beef now.
And I don't know, disrespect against male strippers, I guess would be Tatum's contribution, all in one shot.
I don't know if male strippers are getting disrespected based on those movies.
Based off Magic Mike's box office, they are. Also joining us behind the scenes, joining us for the first time on the show, Jordan Anderson is here. Of course, very familiar with Pez, but I know you're a comics guy, so I figured it'd be worth bringing you in. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good. Yeah, I am not a competitor of the movie Battleground anymore. I do have like one or two matches out there, but I'm an avid watcher. I still haven't gotten around to watching Pez take Henry Confidential to school, but I'm still waiting to watch that one, probably maybe tonight. So I'm looking forward to that. And also, I want to see that Men in Black 3. Let's cure the racism, the anti-Semitism. I had ChatGPT actually write up a little script for what that movie could be, and it was actually like surprisingly pretty good. And so yeah, I'm down for that.
Well, I mean, Sony did have a script written years ago for it, but yeah, let's just throw it out and have a computer write it. Why not?
Yeah.
Half the movies in Hollywood feel like they're written by a computer anyway. So,
by the way, it's funny enough you bring that up. All of our news stories this week are related to comic books because there was enough that I thought it'd be worth keeping it all comic book related. But there was a story where apparently the WGA this week is pursuing legitimate research and interest in allowing writers to basically input what they want in a script, having an AI write it, and then still retaining credit the writers themselves. Which is, I mean, that's a whole thing in and of itself, but it's not technically comic book related, even though you probably could have an AI write these movies.
Until the AI revolts because of that, and that leads to the downfall of humanity because they're not getting credit on the credit, on the movie credits, and that's the trigger that sets off Judgment Day, James Cameron style.
What's going to happen is Tommy Wiseau will win an Oscar for an AI written script.
Big Shark might be written by an AI. You never know.
And then the AI will be like, hang on, Tommy Wiseau won an Oscar before we did? Fuck out of here.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We are going to do our Shazam spoiler discussion first before we get into some of that comic book related movie news. So let's go ahead and get into it as I do what I always do and read an essay that I wrote because why not? Here we go. Shazam is back on the big screen in this third technical entry of this DC franchise, though not if you ask Dwayne Johnson. Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Zachary Levi, Asher Angel, and Jaimin Hansu each return as their various versions of the character Shazam, with Asher Angel's Billy Batson nearing 18 and dealing with the emotions of possibly being left behind after finding love with his new family. But before that, the family must deal with the Daughters of Atlas, a trio of women with a history with the wizard and a drive to resurrect the God's realm. Joining our titular heroes include Rachel Zegler, Lucy Liu, and Helen Mirren as the respective Daughters of Atlas, all of whom bring something to the film, despite a lack of real character. Jack Dylan Grazer's Freddie Freeman returns to steal more scenes, and the large ensemble that warmed hearts from the first one returns, including all the adult heroes. I don't feel like reading that long list, getting expanded roles, and the extended family. I don't feel like reading that even longer list, making most of the limited screen time. Critics were mixed on the film, with praise going towards the performances, specifically Grazer and Zegler, the action, and the film keeping its lighter, fun tone. But criticisms were directed towards the script and specifically the overuse of Zach Levi's immature portrayal of Shazam. The film also struggled at the box office, opening to a $30.5 million on its opening weekend domestically, and so far pulling in $73 million to date worldwide. The film opened to $20 million less than the original and broke a 4-week running streak of debuting films overshooting their box office estimations. Director David Sandberg has already spoken on the future of the franchise, with Sandberg, James Gunn, and Zach Levi all previously saying that there were plans to continue forward with Shazam 3, which was clearly set up in the mid-credit scene, but with the film's underperformance, that may get called into question. So obviously we lost Madi there. I'm going to check in if everything's all good.
You forgot
there.
to mention the most blatant product placement since Power Rangers and Krispy Kreme with Skittles and Shazam Fury
Oh
of the
yeah,
Gods.
Skittles. Yeah.
We're gonna get into the Skittles.
Yeah.
We're gonna taste the rainbow a
the
little
most
bit later.
ridiculous
So
shit.
Austin,
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw it over to you first. What were your general thoughts on the film?
Yeah, I mean, it's inoffensive. It's it's bland. It's fine. Like, I think fine is like the best word you could describe Shazam. It's like it's a mildly entertaining 2 hour and 10-minute movie that takes zero chances, that does nothing new, that takes, is honestly, I think, about on par with the original, but at the same time I was lukewarm on the original personally. And it's just about the most vanilla milquetoast superhero movie you can have, and given the state of the DCU right now, that's kind of not what you needed. You needed either to take some big chances to get people into the theaters, or you needed to have what they sort of have in the comic books. You had to have Black Adam in this movie, and he's not in this movie. And you needed that crossover, because that's the natural crossover that we kind of needed and should have had between Shazam, Black Adam, and the Shazam 2 should have been Shazam versus Black Adam, whatever, something. And the fact that we don't have that, I know Aaron's probably got the stories about The Rock potentially interfering in that. And not
we're gonna get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that, I'm sure. But I think the humor's okay. The movie's, again, sort of entertaining. I think there's a few actors in the movie that are phoning it in pretty clearly. Lucy Liu, clearly phoning it in. And I have my issues, with the movie as far as some of the acting choices and things, but it's some of the ones that we had in the original. So I'll leave it at that, and we'll get into more details in a minute.
All right. Jordan, brief summation on your thoughts on the movie.
Well, I actually am in the minority that actually really dug this movie. I actually liked it a lot, and it's probably mostly because I'm a big Marvel guy, and this movie almost feels more of like a Marvel movie as far as tone goes. It just feels like you have a lot of the humor in there. You have a lot of the kind of the lightheartedness. It's not as like serious and brooding and like a lot of the DC stuff that's been out there. And yeah, I actually had a lot of fun. I mean, I love Zach Levi. I think that he has charisma for days. He's great always. And then I loved Jaimon Hansu in it too. I thought that he looked like he was having a blast with this one. Like, whereas the first one maybe not so much, but they gave him way more to do in this movie, and especially at the end. I like his little slick outfit that he comes in on. That's cool. And also Jack Dylan, a Grazer. That was he was a standout to me. Like that scene when he has to sneak in and grab that little apple thing, and he's like running around like that. Like that's a lot of fun. And he's with Jaimon Hansu, so like have those two do more. And yeah, I mean, there's some things that were pretty vanilla. I mean, we can get in the whole unicorn Skittles thing maybe in a minute, but that was like really out there. But besides that thing, I mean, that most of it was just like, yeah, pretty run of the mill. But I have fun because I like the message. I like the tones of like family and it just kind of gives me a good positive, uplifting feeling where you walk away feeling happy at the end versus feeling kind of dark or like depressed or anything that like some of these DC properties tones have had. So yeah.
All right, and then Madi, brief thoughts on what you thought of the movie, just kind of opening.
It was fine. I don't know if I have to say anything else, but no, it was like
fine.
It just felt like. I mean, the first movie I really enjoyed. This one was okay. Like I don't really have any major. I have like one major issue with it, but other than that, it was just like, all right, okay.
Yeah,
that's it.
This movie, it falls into a weird place for me because overall I did like it. I did enjoy it. But it's like compared to the first one, I do think it's a clear step back.
Yeah.
But this movie is also how I described it to someone was it's the best version of the movie that the MCU has been trying to make for the last couple of years. Like, I think this movie is better than Thor: Love and Thunder. I think this movie is better than Quantumania. which I even thought that was a step up from Love and
Actually.
Thunder personally. I think it's
I
better
would
than both
agree
of
that
those.
it's better than most of Phase 4. I'll say that, and I think Phase 4 is
Yeah.
pretty
So
abysmal.
it's
Yeah.
it's in
Most
this
of it, yeah.
weird middle ground where it's like it is a clear step back from the first one. I think there are some clear and obvious issues with this movie, but also when you compare it to all the other recent superhero movies that are just like it, I do think it is more enjoyable than those films. I do think the characters are a bit more unique. Like when I compare the group of characters in this film to the group of characters in Thor, the group of characters in Ant-Man, I think these characters stand out a bit more. I think they're a bit more fleshed out. I think there's a little more of a unique personality to this movie than there is to the others. And I say that as somebody who still to this day, I don't think Marvel's made a genuinely bad movie, but they are very much settling into a realm of mediocrity. And I think that this movie stands above that. It's a clear step back from the first one. So there's a weird line that this movie's writing. Because I think personally, the first one arguably is, at least in my opinion, I think it's the best film in the DCEU. Like, unless
One of.
Don't get me started. Don't get me
Hold on.
I think it's
now.
one of them too. Yeah.
It's
absolutely
one of
with
them.
you on
The
that.
first
me
one
personally,
is
because I'm
really
not a
good.
fan
Great.
of most of what Snyder did, and
Me
like
neither.
there's a couple of really bad ones in there. For me, it's between Wonder Woman and the first Shazam. I think is probably the best film in the DCEU. But so yeah, this one's a step back. It is more mediocre, but it's better than a lot of what we've been getting. Like compared to Ant-Man 2 weeks ago, I do think this movie is a step up, and I did enjoy this more to the point where until like tomorrow I'm going to the movies with my brother and sister, and they hadn't seen it yet, so we had planned on going to see it, and it wasn't until the time that we were going to see it coincided with another movie that they decided to change it. I was perfectly happy seeing the film a second time. Like I wouldn't have been bothered by seeing it a second time, but I'm not going to go out of my way to do so. And that's kind of how I feel about it, is the best way that I can surmise it. So similar to what we've done the last couple of weeks, I've pulled up a couple of topics from the film that I'll sort of use as talking points. And the first thing that we're going to get to, because it's arguably the most controversial aspect of this film in a weird way, is the performances. Because some of the performances within this film were very, when you go through the critic reviews and sort of read individual reviews, which is what I do to sort of pull out talking points, some of the performances were really praised. The leading three teenagers in this movie, Asher Angel, Jack, who's obviously not in the movie very much, but Jack Dylan Grazer and Rachel Zegler, all received good reviews for their performances within this film, and were often considered by a lot of critics the highlight of this movie, the three of them and the chemistry those individual characters have on screen. Vice versa, then, you have Zach Levi, who received very mixed reviews. Some people enjoyed him because it's basically the same thing as the first. A lot of people had an issue because it's the same thing as the first. Lucy Liu, as Austin, I'm going to say subtly alluded to, has also been coming under fire, especially compared to Zegler and Mirren. The fact that she is the one that steps up and becomes the main antagonist. She does feel like she's phoning it in just a little bit compared to the others. I think Mirren was a lot more engaging as a villain than her. So there's a lot there. The first one I'll jump into, and of course you guys can bring up other performances that stood out, good or bad. I'm going to go to Levi. I do agree with the criticism that he hasn't advanced in any way, and it is weird that he's still playing this exactly as he played it in the first film, because what we see of Asher Angel, that character has clearly grown and matured to an extent since the first film. So it doesn't make sense that Shazam would not have. My biggest issue, though, in general in this movie is I think they just overused the superheroes. I think it's really weird that they had so many scenes where the heroes were just in superhero form. Like, wouldn't you think that these kids hanging around essentially a Batcave would just be themselves more than they would just be Power Rangered up into their superhero form? Like, especially if they're just sitting around a table watching TV, like it's really weird. They're just constantly in superhero form. And I think that that's where the issue comes from, because I do think Asher Angel is quite good in that role. And I think if you gave him more scenes, we could get a break from the immaturity that Billy Batson or Shazam brings, which is what the first movie had, because he was constantly interchanging between the two. And so you could get a mix of the goofier performance with the slightly more serious performance that they're having the kid give. Madi, I'll jump to you first. What were your, and again, anything that stands out to you in terms of the performances, but what are your thoughts on that?
I honestly think you hit the nail on the head, man. Like, Zach Levi just feels like he's still playing a 13-year-old instead of a 17-year-old. I mean, it's only 4 years, but like it's a substantial difference in terms of how they behave. And like, when I was 17, girls were like probably the only thing on my mind, if we're being completely honest. And I don't think they mentioned it once, except for he has a crush on Wonder Woman. Like, that was it. So I was like, a lot of it, my issues with it were just Zachary Levi not feeling like he fit into the rest of the movie. But I agree, again, like, there wasn't any reason for them to just be superheroed up for so much of the film. I will say that Megan Good is probably the best of all of them in terms of like acting the age of the younger counterpart. I mean, she did it great in the first one, and then she aged up appropriately to like the whatever 10 and 11, however old she is.
I think that's how she's supposed to be.
Yeah, so like I think she probably did the best job of all of them of like how to age up and like.
And I think to build off your point there, I think Ross Butler and DJ Cotrana are kind of screwed either way, because those characters aren't fleshed out enough to have individualistic personalities.
Yeah, no one really cares.
They're kind of just teenage boys.
Yeah, like they're like, oh, he plays video games, but now he's playing video games slightly older. He's watching baseball.
But he's gay.
The other one's character development is I'm gay, and that's like his one.
Which they already hinted at in the first one. It was already there. So
right. I mean, I'm glad that like that reveal. They're like, oh yeah, it's fine. We all know, and it wasn't like a.
The joke was funny.
Yeah, it was a funny joke, but it was like, I'd like for them to have more to do than just this is their one character beat and then that's it. Like, I don't know. Like the jokes in the movie were fun, but it was just like I felt like there was only 3 real main characters of the group, and then everyone else was just kind of left to do what they wanted to do, and that was it. Right. And when it's about a family, like you want it to have kind of equal distribution of like how much they have to do, what kind of character development they have. And I get Zachary Levi's the star of it, but also if he's not doing the best performance, then you might as well shift to other people and focus on them as well.
And even then, they still very clearly value, whether in this movie, whether he's Jack Dylan Grazer or Adam Brody, they still very clearly value the Freddy character more than the others in terms of plot impact, in terms of development. He's also the child that easily gets the most screen time, because for most of the movie he is without his powers. Austin, I'll go up to you next.
The Levi thing is definitely it's noticeable, because every time they cut back to Asher Angel, and for the 5 minutes he's maybe on screen in this whole movie. I mean, he can't have more than 5, 6, 7 minutes total.
Part of me wonders, was he like unavailable or something? Did something happen?
What else is
he
he doing?
Wasn't available to shoot?
I don't know, but like
weird.
he's very mature he's very mature when we see him. In those things, like you said, he's not going around going, hey Freddy, da, 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 da. Like he's not doing what Levi's doing. One of the things I think the Jumanji films do well, the most recent ones, is those guys in their avatar form are still committed to acting like the actual actors, how they're acting in the previous scenes, you know what I mean? And even in the sequel, Kevin Hart commits to the Danny Glover bit, you know what I mean, where he's acting like Danny Glover, acting like an old man. They actually fully commit to that. I think Shazam 2 could have learned from that and taken a page out of that, to where like, hey, Zachary Levi, tone it down a little bit. I know that's your shtick, but like mature a little bit, have something going on. I do find one other thing that's just weird, that Grace Curry, who plays Mary, is in her same form in both forms.
Yes.
I mean,
what is that? So her powers, she turns into the Shazam form with bigger boobs. That's her Shazam form. Like,
I feel like it's more just like she already is. I don't know how old she is in real life, but I think she's in her like 20s.
I believe she's like early to mid 20s now.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, you turn into an adult when you're already an adult. So it's like, all right, you just keep the same form.
And for what it's, I believe the explanation that they gave plot-wise is in the first movie, there's a line where it essentially defines the powers as it turns you into the truest version of yourself or the innermost version of yourself is how it's described. So the fact that she's already a fully fledged adult is enough that you could sort of explain that away. For anyone who's curious, the real reason is they made a decision. I believe it was some sort of personal thing between the director and the actress. They made a decision not to bring Rachel Borth, the actress who played the older version in the first one, back. And then David Sandberg just decided not to recast because he felt that the actress was old enough to portray both versions.
Yeah, so I mean, but yeah, Asher needs more. He needs more screen time. I think one of the things you could have fixed is you could have him, instead of crushing on Wonder Woman, have him crushing on Mary, because they're about the same age, you know, in the movie, and
That's
have
getting
them
into some weird territory, man.
Well, I was going to say that kind of
the movie already has a thing where a 6,000-year-old woman is going after like a 15-year-old kid, bro. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's weird. That's
and
weird
to be
already.
fair,
They've been raised in the same house
Austin,
and all that stuff.
It's not out of nowhere, because in the first film, and there's a scene in this film where they continue it, they sort of paint her with Levi in a weird romantic way. It just feels like they don't want to paint her with Asher Angel specifically in that kind of romantic way. But like, there are scenes in both of these movies where like the way that they're having Levi deliver the dialogue does almost feel like he's sort of flirting with her.
But at the same time, they make it clear that Billy is turning 18 in like 2 weeks or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that far away. It's not like they couldn't be flirtatious with each other.
But
then he turns
wait till
18.
you're 18. Always wait till they're 18.
I understand that, but they don't do anything.
Then someone gets stuck
in a
water
scene.
I don't think there's anything wrong with flirting or whatever. Like, they don't do anything. You know, it's not like the Transformers movie, that fourth one, where dude's carrying around a business card with his legal loopholes about how he can date a minor.
Oh yeah, that was a real thing.
Remember that in that movie?
Before I jump over to Jordan real quick, Austin, do you want to take a minute just to shit on Lucy Liu? Because clearly you had a
like I maybe it's her plastic surgery doesn't let her, you know, spit out the lines enough, but she is clearly just sitting in front of a green screen, just saying her lines. And I've never been a big fan of Lucy Liu anyways. I think maybe her best performances are probably in the Charlie's Angels movies. I don't even think she's that great in Kill Bill. I think she kind of delivers all her lines exactly the same. I don't think she's super charismatic. I've never really understood her appeal. But yeah, 100% Helen Mirren should be your primary villain. I don't even think you needed Lucy Liu in this movie. I think you could have had two sisters, had Helen Mirren, and then have the other chick, Andrea or whatever, you know, Anne.
So we're gonna. I'm gonna jump it down to Jordan real quick to talk about the performances, any of it, because we're gonna go to the sisters in just a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I don't really have as big of issues with the performances as you guys have. I do think that the whole Asher Angel not really being there very much, he should have been the main focus as far as any of the kids go, for sure. But I mean, Jack Dylan Grazer as Freddy, I thought he was great, and like I actually laughed pretty hard a couple of times at him, and as far as like the family dynamic and like whether or not their counterparts are acting the right age, like I mean I don't really like know what people are like really wanting. Are they wanting some like real maturity, or like they wanted some character growth, or what? Because I kind of like the fact that like the adult characters are almost acting a little more immature than the kid characters, and I think that's kind of an interesting dynamic, the way that they kind of play it that way. And yeah, like I don't really have too many gripes with really any of the performances. I mean, maybe Lucy Liu's a little vanilla, but I didn't think it was an outright horrible performance, but by any means. But yeah, my standouts were definitely Jaimon Hansu. I really dug his character a lot, and I like they give him way more to do, that he's running around with Freddy and like with some of the family, and then I do think that it was weird that they kept taking away just random powers from different kids, and then one would get their powers back, and so you always had the full team except for one kid there. There's always one kid not in like superhero form. I always thought that was a little weird. Like I don't know, but I mean, but like I don't really have any major gripes. Like I actually have a lot of fun. I mean, my only gripe is something we'll talk about in a little bit. The unicorn stuff that I hated all that, but beyond that, Yeah, I mean, I actually will defend this movie probably a lot more than most. Like I had a fun time, and I also
I think to go off your point with the performances, I do think a lot of the criticism is squared away at Levi. I feel like most people don't have an issue with the others because, especially obviously, Grace Curry is playing herself. That one's kind of easy to nail, but of the others, I don't think there's really an issue with any of them because I agree with Medee. I think Megan Good did a great job at nailing the little girl, and I think especially because considering Freddie Freeman is only the way he is in terms of performance because Jack Dylan Grazer is ADHD as fuck. Like if you've ever actually seen an interview with the actor himself, he just acts like that. Like that's just who he is. And Adam Brody does a great job at sort of nailing that in the few scenes that he is in because of the superheroes he's in this the least of any of them. It is the other two, Cortona and Butler, but those characters aren't enough. There's not enough there that you can really knock them. I think it is Levi, and while I didn't hate him personally, I do see where the criticism's coming from because it feels like Asher Angel's performance has grown, but Levi's version of the performance has grown. And especially if we're going off of the definition of the characters which they use, again, it's that line of it's the truest version of yourself. Why would the truest version of oneself, when this kid has grown, he has matured, he's learned to accept his family, he's learned to accept the help of others, even depend on it to a certain extent, why would that be reverting to a 13-year-old? It doesn't make a lot of sense realistically. Now, again, I totally understand getting into the humor behind Levi's performance. It's just I see both sides. So the next thing to jump to is the sisters, because this was honestly my biggest issue with the film. It is the villains in this. So Rachel Zegler, Helen Mirren, and Lucy Liu are the sisters. And the first thing that I wanted to point out, because this to me now, people have said that this movie is filled with plot holes, and sure, there's some logic fallacies that you could probably nitpick with this movie if you want to hit it hard enough. But I think most of these films you could nitpick to death because they're not trying to make them honest trailer proof. You know what I mean? I think that's a great term to describe it. You can nitpick anything to death if you really want to. Why is Rachel Zegler's sister 21 years old? Or I guess if that's her age in real life. Why is she supposed to be 16 years old, but the others are in their 60s and 70s?
Okay.
Because they're all thousands of years old, but why is one physically so much younger than the rest? Because it's not a thing of she's averting her appearance to deceive him, because it's not like at any point she ever ages into an older actress, or when she's turned human she ages up at that point. She's still always just Rachel Zegler. Why is she so much younger than the others? Why is it just so perfectly coincided for her to infiltrate a high school to get to know this kid? I think that's really, it's a really weird decision to have them all be sisters.
The correct answer is for reasons, Aaron.
And that reasons. Yeah, well, that's fair. But
we want to have one young, one middle age, and one old, I guess. I don't know.
No, Lucy Liu and Helen Mirren can't be that far apart.
I don't know.
I feel like there's at least a million gap. I think
Lucy
Liu's 50. Helen Mirren's in her 70s. Okay. Helen Mirren's in her 70s, 100%.
Helen Mirren.
No, I thought Lucy was 60s. I thought she was older. But yeah. Okay, so that's on me. But yeah, so there's that issue. The second thing is where the actual issue within the plot stems from is these sisters have returned to attempt to restore their world that was taken away from them by the wizard. They don't want to free Atlas. They don't want to do any of that other stuff from mythology that they're sort of leaning into. They just want to restore the world that they lived in, their paradise.
55 and 78, by the way.
There we go. Okay.
Damn.
And damn, Helen Mirren is 78. Good for her. And so
still doing all these.
So that's their goal, is to plant this tree and restore their paradise, essentially. And after all these fucking years that you've had to put this plan together, somehow when it comes down to it, all three of you are on a totally different page. Because Lucy Liu has apparently secretly been far more aggressive than the other two this entire time, and they've never picked up on it. Rachel Zegler is incredibly sympathetic to humans' plight, to the point where the first human she meets that impresses her, or I guess in that sense attracts her, she's like, okay, what are we, which they also establish the fact that she is just the nicest of the three in general. There's no part of her that wants to destroy humanity. She just wants her thing back. And Helen Mirren is this weird in-between where it's sort of like, well, I do want my reality back. And I mean, we don't need to destroy the humans, but it takes her sister betraying her to be like, well, maybe we shouldn't destroy the humans. And so I think this was the worst part of the film, in my opinion. I do think Lucy Liu is phoning it in. I think the other two are good. Lucy Liu is phoning it in, which makes it worse when she becomes the main antagonist of the film by the end of the three. I think that the scripting of it doesn't make sense. Their motivations don't make sense. Like why they're all on totally different pages after having thousands of years to plan doesn't make any sort of sense. How supposedly you're so dedicated to this movement, but yet the moment one of your sisters is against you, you're willing to murder her to get what you want in particular. Like all of it is just incredibly contrived, in my opinion. It feels contrived. It feels like it's been written this way just to create more issues within the film, and I don't think that it makes a lot of sense, because I do think on paper these characters could be really interesting. I just don't think they did it in the most interesting way. Austin, I'll go to you first. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, just even the plot in general just feels like a recycled thing we've seen in other movies of I'm gonna, it's a worse generic version of what General Zod was trying to do in Man of Steel with like the terraforming. Like that was a way better version of that with like an actual machine that was doing things and some big time destruction. By the way, they freaking level Philadelphia in this movie. Philadelphia is wrecked. So I don't want to hear any more complaints about Man of Steel. Like they wreck Philadelphia in this movie, and even early in the movie, they put a dome over all of Philadelphia, and everybody in the city just seems mildly annoyed by it, by the fact that they literally can't leave Philadelphia. There's this thing where nobody can get in, nobody can get out, and everybody's just like, "Hey, bro, we want to do something with that dome where we're trapped and nobody can go anywhere." So
what they're probably thinking is after watching what happened to Metropolis and then watching where was Suicide Squad set, like fucking Detroit, or like after what happened there, and they're probably just thinking, you know what, it's a fucking dome. At least we're not getting leveled. And then they got leveled.
And then they got leveled. And also, it's the cleanest Philadelphia I've ever seen, as opposed to the real life videos I've seen of people zonked out on, bath salts and heroin and fentanyl, zombied out walking the streets and full of garbage. This is the cleanest Philadelphia I've ever seen. I think it would have been at least a little more interesting if there was, dealing with some of that. But it's just the whole thing. They instead of conjuring up zombie people like Black Adam or something, they conjure up versions of Greek mythological creatures or whatever, which we only get like one or two scenes of, and definitely people are getting killed. That one guy gets like thrown through a complete storefront window very, very hard. I mean, people are getting killed. There's casualties here going on, but I feel like there's just a lot of time wasted too, and it's just a generic like we're gonna turn this place into our home thing. Again, like I said, the General Zod did way better in Man of Steel. So you can at least give Man of Steel that, whether or not you're a fan of it. That plot stuff was way better in that movie.
So I'll go to Jordan briefly. What were your thoughts on the villain aspect of it?
I didn't really care too much. Honestly, I think that they could have just gone with just Helen Mirren. I didn't even think Rachel's performance was really anything special. Like it was fine, but I mean, you could have just made Helen Mirren the main villain and just left it at that. And Lucy Liu, I mean, she was probably the worst of the three, but even so, I'm not going to say that her performance was terrible. It was just very vanilla and boring, and they did the whole thing where they start to whatever this tree is doing to the city of Philadelphia, and then they have all these random monsters and things, and then cut off the source, aka this giant tree, and they all just drop dead. Like every
how
other
many times have we seen that?
How many times are we going to see that? Like I'm sick of seeing that. Yeah, it's just like
how many
really,
times?
Like dumb and
I mean, so I'll defend that real quick. I've never had an issue with that trope because to me, that stems to real life. You know what I mean? Like, let's say you have a series of drones that are all connected to a main power source. If you shut the power source down and the signal's cut off from the drones aren't going to work anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right,
mean?
but
Like,
but they all
just see
act like
that way too many
sentient.
times.
They all act like sentient beings, though. All the creatures do. They're running around all
Yeah.
different. They're not all doing a formation where they're all doing the same movements over and over again. Wouldn't it be more interesting if they shut it off and then all the kids get their powers back and go around and save the city individually, and they all get, they all go back into their superhero forms. You get them acting like a team again to bring it back around to the bridge thing of people. This person, zoom in and save this person, defeat that creature, zoom in and save that person from falling, zoom in and do this, go circle it back around to the beginning of the thing, them acting as a team, but their plan working perfectly this time to help save the city at the end after you've kind of shut the tree down or whatever. I just think that would be way more clean than we've got them all circled up with the unicorns and they just drop dead. And it's like we get one little scene of them riding in on the unicorns out of the smoke, taking out one or two of them, and then we just don't see it anymore.
Okay, so I'll jump into this because both of you now have called it out negatively. So I want to jump into it. Mehdi, do you have any strong thoughts on the performances of the villains, or do you care?
I disagree. Actually, I think Lucy Liu was the perfect middle child. Absolutely forgettable. So I don't know. No, she was. It was. I don't know. I agree with you guys. I think Helen Mirren definitely should have been the main villain. I also don't know why there's these three sisters, and then the opening scene, which I loved, was just the two of them. Like, why wouldn't you bring the third one?
Yeah.
So the answer to that question is the third sister was because they at first they only just reference it as the daughters of Atlas. They don't say that there's three of them until later.
Right.
It was supposed to be a reveal. The problem is DC got so desperate with this movie, they just started marketing all the twist reveals.
Which, listen, I get wanting to have like a big reveal, but you don't need a big reveal in every movie. I feel like a lot of people, especially like I went with my girlfriend to go see it, and she was right away. She's like, "Yeah, she's going to be one of the sisters." Like Rachel Zegler showed up.
It's very
like,
obvious.
It's so obvious that she's one of the sisters. Like, you don't think she's going to be bad, but you're like, yeah, she's one of the sisters. Like, there's a third one. And I was like, yeah, no, that.
And also, what are her powers?
She holds her hands.
It's like a Doctor Strange
spin around, like it's like.
Oh yeah,
it's a weird Doctor Strange.
What is the purpose? Like,
power over matter.
Okay, but is anybody getting affected that's in the middle of that matter? Like, what?
That was my question.
An illusion? It's like the pitch meeting that they did for this. If anybody watches pitch meeting, it's like, what are her powers exactly? Unclear. Like, that's a perfect word for it. Where it's just like,
she just moves stuff around like it's like a Rubik's cube.
Yeah.
And
then,
I don't know.
I just sort of took it as like it's almost like a mirror dimension thing. It's essentially, I took it as she can basically take anyone and put them exactly where she wants them to be, and there's just a cool visual effect with it.
Yeah, but none of them really had like distinguished. Like Lucy Liu had the weird thing where she whispers in your ear and you do stuff.
Yeah,
which I mean, any woman could do that, and I do stuff. Like that's not really anything special.
Sure.
But it's like it just felt like none of them really had powers that were specific or this is what we have.
If it was a thing where all three of them had an individual power and they all had to work together to like bring the tree to life or something, or
that would have been
but it's like they all just have whatever powers they need in the scene that they
like
need.
Helen
to
Mirren
have.
just kind of waves her arm around and stuff moves.
Yeah,
which
and also like it kind of makes it like I was gonna say that like staff. It makes the staff kind of irrelevant. Why do you even have the staff? They already have powers. Like what do you need the staff for? I guess it makes your powers stronger or what? I don't know.
Yeah,
so.
And to be fair, I think that's a problem that the movie has in general because they like sort of try to indicate that like each of the siblings may be stronger in one of the individual aspects of Shazam than the others. Like the fact that they actively point out the fact that Billy doesn't clearly have much of the wisdom of Solomon, but they all turn to the older sister because she's just smarter than the rest naturally. And they try doing this thing with them. And even visually, it's sort of there. Like the youngest sister runs more than the others. Like she's doing the Flash thing more than the others kind of are. But it's not consistent. They don't like, it's not like it's clear that one of them each gets
The
a sort of
powers
stronger...
are inconsistent. Also, the strengths and weaknesses of the Shazam characters are inconsistent. What hurts them and what doesn't. There's literally a fight scene where they're just lifting each other up 6 feet in the air and just like dropping them, like slamming them on the ground. And it's like that hurts them. But then Zachary Levi gets thrown into a building from a mile away, and then he like immediately is like right back, but like he gets slammed on the ground by Helen Mirren and he's out. Like it's very inconsistent as to like what powers they have, what's the weaknesses, what's the strength. Like you said, if they've all got flash speed, why are any of them getting hit by the beam at all to lose their powers? If you have the speed of the Flash,
the closest they come to explaining that is the joke thing with the DJ Katrana one, where it's like, I have bad reaction time because like as a kid he's fat. So it's like that's like the closest you come to any of them. Like his powers get jacked because he has bad reaction time.
As a kid, he's fat, and as in his Shazam form, he's probably the biggest out of all of them. So he should, like, technically.
Yeah. You know, listen, I never said it was a great movie. I said it was a fun movie. It's fun. So I want to turn this quickly, because
I think Jordan had one more point. Give him one more point.
I was going to say I was going to.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to say,
just really quick, I'll make it super quick. I was going to say, like, I thought that the best scene of the whole movie was the opening scene where they turn everyone into stone. They come in, they make it dark, they make it like more interesting. And they should have gone more with that tone overall, but they don't really do that. So that tone just kind of shifts.
You can tell in scenes like that David Sandberg has a background in horror, because I think he does do stuff like that. The serious stuff he actually does really, really well.
Well, that's the first scene in the first movie in like that conference room or whatever is like very similar.
Oh, yeah, terrifying.
Yeah.
He does the serious stuff, because even the dramatic stuff, he does the serious stuff really, really well. Yeah. It is kind of the comedy where it falters at points. And even though I think both movies are funny to a lot of it, it is where its biggest weakness comes. So
they
I'm going to jump into
the concept, by the way, that door room thing that's like out of Monsters Inc. basically. You know, but like that's fascinating really concept that they do nothing with. Like at all. And that's a really interesting. I can see a whole movie of them chasing villains in and out of these different dimensions, almost like the Doctor Strange thing or something, where we got to go into this door and it's this world where, you know, one just says nightmare fuel, another one says fairies or whatever, you know, another one is like teddy bears, you know, like I think that'd be really fun. You introduce this concept and then do nothing with it. It's really weird. You're teasing a better movie. Don't ever tease a better movie than what you're doing. More interesting
said that
concept.
of like them chasing them through doors, and I'm all that's going in my head is Scooby-Doo running through back and forth.
But if you're going for the comedic thing, wouldn't that be kind of funny, them going in and out of these worlds really quick?
It would have been hilarious. But
I think it'd make... I don't know if you could build a whole movie around that. I think you could build a portion of a movie around it, certainly, like a second act or something.
Well, bring Helen Mirren to the thing. Why not have a chase sequence where they're chasing her in and out of those dimensions and we see 5
No, you're right. There could have been a better action sequence than them going immediately back to the Greek maze or the Roman maze.
Yeah.
So I want to get to, because there's a lot more to do with the movie itself in terms of the behind the scenes stuff that we'll talk about, even if we cut some of the other news. But because seriously, like, I did 2 different deep dive research this week, one into Marvel, one into DC, and both led to hilarious results of what happened with some of these movies. But both Austin and Jordan have sort of negatively approached it. I don't know how you feel about it in the D, but let's talk about the Taste the Rainbow thing. Skittles gets a Transformers-esque marketing promotion in this movie, where basically they introduce unicorns. Unicorns are real in mythology, and they introduce unicorns, and unicorns are these dark, scary creatures that everything fears, and the one thing that can tame them is I forget what the actual name for it is, but it's basically like, what is it?
Yeah,
ambrosia, I think.
Ambrosia, which is the super sweet substance from Greek mythology.
It sure isn't. That's that chemical that they banned in Europe, to where they can't sell Skittles in Europe anymore.
The
dihydrogen carbon, whatever the hell it's called. I'll look it up. But like, where the substance that they banned that's in Skittles.
And so ambrosia. And so the youngest daughter, which I have to give them credit from a cinematic perspective. They did set it up, because earlier in the movie, she's eating Skittles and organizing Skittles by color into the different bowls. And you even get a joke out of it where she says, "You can have the Skittles, but not the red ones," to Helen Mirren. but the little sister has the idea of, because we don't have ambrosia, we'll give the unicorns Skittles and maybe they'll be on our side. And of course it works, and it leads to not one but two uses of taste the rainbow and then taste the rainbow motherfucker, which I'm going to assume that they're going to claim that that was an original line, but for anyone who's curious, where that meme originally spawned from is a YouTuber, the Nostalgia Critic, used it in a Care Bear review, actually. Because the Care Bears have the Care Bear stare where they attack people with a rainbow. And that's where the joke comes from originally, specifically the motherfucker part of it. And they use it in the movie, which was funny, as somebody who knew that joke ahead of time. That was funny. Okay, so you guys clearly didn't like it. I thought it was funny. I don't know. I think if you do, because the thing is, it's obviously very clear, cheap promotion, but I think it's all about how you go about it, right? I think Power Rangers is a worst case scenario of Rita Repulsa spends the entire third act sitting in a fucking Krispy Kreme and she like eats a donut seductively. And like that's the worst case scenario for marketing.
They blow up an entire Krispy Kreme. Yeah.
Lazy. They don't even do anything with the fact.
Or Uncharted with like Pizza Hut or whatever the fuck it was, and Uncharted.
Right, that there's just a Pizza Hut in the middle of this place. But in cases, like I think there are cases where it can be good. And this is a franchise that I would normally not praise, but Transformers, I think, has always had very enjoyable, blatant marketing promotions, be it in the first film when they had a lineup of specifically branded Pepsi and Mountain Dew vending machines turn into Transformers, which don't exist, by the way. I have never seen a Pepsi branded vending machine.
Or the Mark Wahlberg thing where he literally just grabs a Bud Light on camera, holds it up to the camera, and then chugs the entire thing.
Takes a chug of the
I thought that was an actual commercial in the middle of the movie. This is a weird...
Or
and I was like, are they going to cut part of this movie with them going, taste the rainbow, mother, and cut that into a 20-second commercial? Because, like, I could see them doing that.
You know, and to be fair, DC's also done things like this before. Batman v Superman was notorious for it because they specifically, I believe, at one point show, I think it's like Audi or something, they show Batman driving an Audi, and then they show Gal Gadot flying on a very specific Turkish airline, and they did commercials for them both separate, and it's like, so DC's done blatant promotion before. I thought this was one of the funnier ones. I don't have an issue because the connection of let's bring something sweet in because we've established these things like sweet, that makes sense. The fact that the little girl was playing with the Skittles, it's not just an out of nowhere promotion. It was set up earlier in the film. And I'm sure the Skittles paid top dollar for that promotion. So I'm glad that they at least did it in a creative way. I'm going to go to Madi first because I know how these guys feel. So I'm just curious how you feel.
I actually really liked it. I thought it was fun. I also really loved the unicorn design. I thought it was fantastic.
The design was awesome.
But the whole Skittles thing, I saw it as it was happening. I was like, all right, sure. They have the setup. I was like, all right, so she put Skittles in the white pants in the washing machine. Sure, that's hilarious. You only get the yellow ones or whatever it was. She said that was great. And then as soon as she threw the Skittles and it went to slow-mo on the unicorn, I was like, no fucking way. Like, there's no way that they're actually going this far into this
this promotion.
And then she said, "Taste the rainbow." I was like, "This is."
You might as well have been. We need to get more Skittles from the 7-Eleven down the street. Let's go. And they might as well have shown them grabbing them off the shelf and like raiding the shelves of all the other shit. Dude,
I came out of that movie and I was like, I really hope Skittles didn't pay for this and they just did it. They're hoping to get like.
You may as well just have all the individual superheroes wielding their own thing of Skittles and like doing something with their superpowers.
So let's boil this question down. Why do you guys hate fun? Why do you?
I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. I don't know
you're on my side.
No, here's the thing. I'm all about them riding unicorns to defeat the other guys. It's just the Skittles part of it I don't like. That's the only thing. I actually wouldn't have minded because, as we know from Cabin in the Woods, unicorns are evil. A unicorn was one of the things on the board, and then we see the one spot in that movie, if you remember, where a unicorn, blatantly goes and stabs a guy up against the wall with his horn. So we know that they're evil, and they're evil creatures. They're not friendly, rainbow unicorns or whatever. I'm fine with them riding.
They are rainbow unicorns now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. It's just, it was just.
so blatant and just they beat you over the head with it
when it was
over
as
and
bad
over again.
as the Power Ranger one with Krispy Kreme, I was just like, oh my god, I couldn't roll my eyes enough with that shit.
Oh, see, I was ready to go buy some Skittles afterwards, man. I wanted Skittles.
Because one of the other things too for me is that
I wanted sour Skittles, but
they make these unicorns and make them evil. These really cool creatures that they do almost nothing with. You get one little scene of them going up against a couple of little creatures, and that's it. And then you cut to everything else, and it's like where were all the kids on these really cool, awesome looking unicorns? They're not doing anything with it. They completely waste them. They don't use them for anything. And so why even have them there? And like for like a quick little scene, okay, we see a cool creature and that's it. Or are you going to do something else with them? I mean, they don't really do anything with them. That's one of the other big issues.
I can see that perspective. Part of me feels like it's budgeting, because this movie only had a $125 million production budget. Compared to other blockbusters of this scale, it's not as big a budget as, say, the Marvel films.
Yeah.
Part of me feels like it was probably a pick or choose type thing. I'm sure if they had more money, they would have done 5 extra minutes and thrown in unicorn fighting footage. But when
they made a big deal about it, though, such a big build up to it. So with like all the different like Skittles throughout the movie, and you make such a big deal only to just do nothing with it. Well, I mean, it's like a big build up to like nothing happening, really.
I'd say the build up was the joke. The build up was to the taste the rainbow motherfucker joke. That's what it was building up to. It was not building up.
That's your climax.
I prefer to build up to the main thing that's going to save the day is unicorns. That's a joke in itself that I like. Yeah. That like she's obsessed with unicorns, and the fact that they're like these evil creatures that scare the other. They're so evil they scare the other Cyclops creatures, or the other things that we see, the scorpions or whatever. Like I like that joke that they're like the most feared things in the mythological world. That's a good joke in itself that you can build up to, that they kind of tease, and I kind of saw that coming. It's just the product placement is just bullshit. And then I just want to point out there was one other product placement that I thought was blatant. Every other shot in that climax, there's a Hampton Inn in the background. Did anybody else notice that?
No.
Dude, there's
I thought that was just because it was.
Bro, go back if you go back and watch this movie on streaming. Yeah, there's a Hampton Inn. The Hampton Inn logo or whatever is present in every other shot of that climax.
I'm gonna put that. I'm not gonna pin that one on Shazam. I'm gonna put that down to DC in and of itself, because if you go through all these DCEU films, there is such blatant advertising in all of them. I mean, in Man of Steel, there's literally a portion of the fight between Zod and Superman where they're just blowing into different businesses. Like,
yeah,
that's blatant advertising. In BVS, you can clearly see all the different car models as he's running down the street, watching the destruction in the opening of the movie. Like, the camera's angled in such a way that you can see the models of the cars.
They had a whole Jeep in BVS where it's like, oh, buy the Batman Superman Jeep, and it's like, oh, it's a regular Jeep, except they put a BVS logo on the very back. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
To be fair, the original Thor and Iron Man did some of the same shit with like the cereals like that they were eating and shit like that. Like, there was a lot of
Burger King.
Burger King and all that shit. Like, all these movies do it, so it's not just a DC thing. I just
how much money Shawarma made in 2008.
Yeah, I guess that my point to that is, I guess, because I see where you're coming from. I don't want to make it feel like I'm disregarding your point. I do see where you're coming from. I guess my perspective on it is, I'm aware that marketing is in these movies to begin with. Like, it's just because it helps pay for your movie. It does. It helps pay for parts of these movies, especially the bigger the fee. And so I guess my thing is just, if you're going to do blatant advertising, I'd just rather it be funny. And with the very least, I got multiple jokes out of this that I did laugh at, because you had the unicorn element of it. You had the Skittles joke in the prison. You had the taste the rainbow joke. I don't know if they needed to run that twice. I would have cut the first one and just got the taste the rainbow motherfucker on the unicorn. I think they killed the joke by doing it twice. But other than that, all of it made me laugh. So I guess that's just why I don't like. They're gonna advertise no matter what anyone says. So I guess I'd rather it just make me laugh.
I think I would have had more of a problem with it if after eating the Skittles, the unicorns had turned into like My Little Pony style unicorns.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like that they
still
had
like
kept dark design.
If they had changed like character design because they ate, and now they're all of a sudden like pink and purple and like they're rainbows coming out their ass and shit like that. I was
although it would have been a whole nother level of marketing promotion if they had turned literally
it would have been
My
nuts.
Little Ponies.
Yeah, like turn the black unicorn into a My Little Pony. That's gonna go great.
Which Which My Little Pony do the bronies want to fuck the most? That's who the main unicorn becomes, so we can get her front and center.
Whichever one Helen Mirren was writing.
Ayo.
I don't know.
Well, they also had the whole little thing about the Fast and Furious too, where they're like alluding like we're all family here, and obviously Helen Mirren's in Fast and the Furious movie.
I should say, for anyone who doesn't know, that joke has two layers, because there's the obvious layer of he's saying it to Helen Mirren, who is not only in those movies, but she's a part of a legacy family that's been in multiple of those films and had multiple family members show up.
Yeah.
But there's the also added element of one of the two screenwriters for this film was Chris Morgan, who's written the bulk of the Fast and Furious movies, hence why that's
or the fact that Hobbs is Black Adam in this universe.
True. 3.
And
There's
he's
3.
now
There's a lot of
technically
ties
not
to
in the
Fast and Furious.
Right.
That's honestly, this movie felt like a more fun version of Fast and Furious without the cars.
It does.
Like it just,
and that's part of the reason. Like, I literally was in the theater and like I sat next to my brother, and when I was reading the credits, it's like, because I didn't know Chris Morgan co-wrote this, and it's like, okay, because I saw the first guy's name, it's like, okay, I remember him, he wrote the first one, and then it's like Chris Morgan, and I was like, fuck, that's why this movie feels like the way it does, because it's the fucking guy who wrote Fast and Furious. It kind of does feel like that, and I feel like the most recent Fast and Furious films, this movie was incredibly mixed in reception, and you're either going to enjoy it or you're not, and it's all about how much you enjoy dumb fun, because that's what it is. At the end of the day, it's dumb fun. To praise this as high art would be stupid. It's not.
No, but like, do we want to get into the whole thing of like why we think that it actually bombed in the whole James Gunn of it all, as to why like most people did not come see this movie because they don't think this character is going to continue. Where if you actually see it, you actually know, well, this character might continue because there's the end credit scene where you kind of find out some things
so because he just referenced Dwayne Johnson and you just referenced the end credit scene, so we're going to move on from the full review portion of the movie, because if we're going to get to any of the news stories, if we're going to get to any of the news stories tonight, I do want to get to the one that connects to this film. So we'll go ahead and jump into that, which is so where this all came about. The reason that this became popularized is because The Wrap put out a tell-all report, essentially through sources from within Warner Brothers itself, about what exactly happened behind the scenes between Shazam and Black Adam, the two films. And where this got popularized was Zachary Levi on Instagram, who is known for following fan pages on Instagram and like sharing stuff out every once in a while to promote fan pages.
Fuck, I just remember Gal Gadot was in a Fast and Furious movie too. That's 4. Remember?
Yeah, that is.
She's in 3 of them.
Yeah, she was.
Holy shit! There's 4 connected. Because I was like, who else is in the
Fast
and Furious?
Cool.
I'm not going to bother going back
was
for it, but
movies.
I'm not going to bother going around for it because it's such an inconsequential.
Just while you're reading that, I was thinking about there's other people in the Fast and Furious that are in the Marvel universe. There's a ton of those. But I was just trying to think about.
I completely forgot she was in Fast
Gal
and Furious.
Gadot was in a couple of those damn movies.
Wonder Woman's in this movie. It means absolutely nothing. Moving on.
It means nothing.
Also, if you saw any of the trailers released in the last week, you saw that because they put it front and center.
That was so dumb.
Dude, they're desperate. So let's get into this report. So why it got popularized and why I even looked into it in the first place is because Zachary Levi screenshotted a post that a fan page put up about the article. He shared it on his Instagram story and captioned it, "The truth shall set you free," which is as good confirmation as I think anyone's going to get that this is probably the real truth of what happened. And it's not good. So here's the breakdown of it for anyone who's not in on the news. So the mid and post credit scenes of Black Adam and Shazam were originally supposed to be flipped. The original plan was in Black Adam, there was going to be a post-credit scene.
John Cena is in Peacemaker.
Yeah, he's so good.
That's 5. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just.
Who's in Peacemaker?
John Cena's not in this movie.
He's in the DC universe.
All right. Stop
some characters from Peacemaker show up in the end credit scene. I'll say that.
John Cena was in the ninth one.
Spoiler review. You can say it. Okay, so to get to my point, because I don't want to spend all night.
Ron Houser was in Fast and Furious too, but that was.
All right.
Do we want to go through everyone's IMDb?
I'm just doing that to amuse myself while Aaron's reading the story. That's all.
All right, so the original plan was in Black Adam, the post-credit scene was supposed to be, and I've seen different reports. Some reports say it was Hawkman and Atom. Some reports say it was Hawkman and Cyclone. Some reports say that it was all three. This has been inconsistent, but essentially, Hawkman and a member of the JSA were supposed to recruit Shazam, and the scene was essentially identical to what we saw in Shazam: Fury of the Gods. And it was them going to speak with Shazam about bringing him into the JSA. And then Shazam's mid-credit scene was supposed to be the scene we saw in Black Adam, except it was Shazam confronting Black Adam on behalf of Waller instead of Superman. Dwayne Johnson, being a producer on Black Adam, had suggested to David Sandberg that they be reversed, with the Shazam confrontation coming before Shazam joins the JSA, and then the other one being he joins the JSA after the fact. After the switch was approved, he then creatively pushed behind the scenes for the confrontation to be against Superman. Now, this is the part of the story that was already public. It's known knowledge that Dwayne Johnson went above then DC head Walter Hamada and convinced Warner Brothers' new studio head Michael DeLuca to sign to bring Henry Cavill back in for the picture. DeLuca wouldn't commit to a long-term deal, but he was willing to bring him in for the cameo. David Sandberg then attempted to shift because of Johnson's switch to pull Shazam out of Black Adam and try and go with the original plan of the JSA members being in Fury of the Gods, which Johnson then also vetoed, stating that he has a creative claim on the use of the JSA characters since they were first introduced in a film that was produced by himself and his company. Sandberg, then clearly frustrated, was ready to abandon the post-credit scene altogether before producer Peter Safran, who was the lead producer of this movie, stepped in and communicated the situation to James Gunn, who had previously not been involved because DeLuca himself was the mediator and not anybody at DC. Gunn, who liked Sandberg and is a fan of his work and had wanted to keep Shazam around, got in contact with Sandberg and agreed to fly out Jennifer Holland and Steve Agee from the Peacemaker series so that they could fill the role of the JSA members in that post-credit scene, therein bringing somebody who is connected to Waller in and introducing him to the JSA in some way, shape, or form. This article also states that Johnson and producers Hiram and Danny Garcia attempted to pitch the idea of centering the DC universe around the characters of Superman and Black Adam as the two pinnacles in the way that Superman and Batman were previously, with the JSA characters filling in the void of any Justice League characters who wouldn't have returned. Now, this part of the article is purely speculative, but it's believed that if the pitch had succeeded, Keaton's Batman would have been kept around, as would have Leslie Grace's Batgirl had that movie been released. Wonder Woman, The Flash, and specifically Harley Quinn would have stuck around as well as leading characters going forward. Cyborg was already out. They weren't going to go back near Ray Fisher. And Affleck had already said he was done as Batman. There was no changing that. And it's presumed that the Peter Safran-produced characters, which include Shazam, Aquaman, and the upcoming Blue Beetle, all of which he produced individually before joining DC as its head, may have been dropped due to Johnson and Safran not getting along. Suicide Squad and Peacemaker as a concept would have also been eliminated, as Johnson wanted Waller's main focus in the DCEU going forward to be his JSA team. Johnson's push is considered one of the major reasons why Walter Hamada left his role in DC. Now, this is also public information. Walter Hamada was supposed to stay with DC until the end of 2022 so that he could oversee the completion of all the films coming out in 2023, because they're all finished. They just are waiting to release in their specific windows. However, Hamada left 2 days before Black Adam released because he had a falling out with specifically DeLuca and Johnson because he didn't like the fact that they went over his head when he was still the head of DC. It's basically saying, fuck you, you're not in charge anymore. When David Zaslav took over, he had no interest in going with Johnson's plan because his plan also put the Garcias as the head of DC, and purportedly Zaslav's first choice, Dan Lin, was turned off by the potential of having to keep Johnson around, which was the original plan. However, DC has since changed on this since Black Adam underperformed, so it is more than likely now, especially with his issues with James Gunn and Peter Safran, that he'll probably not return. This has nothing to do with the issue, but the article also points out that if you're wondering where some of the losses from Black Adam may have come from, Johnson charged Warner Brothers $1 million per social media post to promote the film, a payment that was contracted to be made outright and not based on the box office performance of the film. So despite the film's failure at the box office, Johnson guaranteed that he would still make out with a profit by doing insane marketing on social media for a high price.
Wow, that's a good gig if you can get it, right?
To offset the fact that his paycheck, I believe, as both an actor and as a producer, was largely based on the film succeeding. So he basically guaranteed himself money.
Right.
Okay, so there's a lot in this to sort of and to break down, and I'm not going to like go point by point through it, but essentially what we have here is Dwayne Johnson has basically made it clear for years that he wants nothing to do with Shazam. Originally, they wanted him as the cameo in Shazam 1 instead of Superman. That Superman scene was written in later, and Johnson denied it. They wanted Johnson to be the antagonist of Shazam 2. Johnson denied it. He didn't want to do it. He wanted to make Black Adam first. He just kind of continuously kept putting them off. And then when it came to Sandberg wanting to cross over the films, because that's what would make sense for the character, Johnson, being given producing power, continuously vetoed any connection the two films could have had, to the point where it took James Gunn stepping in and saying, fine, he doesn't want characters he created getting involved. I'll give you characters that I created to make the post-credit scene with, who are still connected to Waller. And of course, Jennifer Holland did cameo in Black Adam as well. So henceforth, she is connected to all of this too. Yeah, so there's a lot here. I read this article and I was doing this research, and anyone who's spoken to me personally, I have maintained the fact that I think everything that I've heard about Black Adam in terms of how the production was handled has greatly changed how I view Dwayne Johnson, because he just seems like a fucking egocentric prick. He just seems like somebody who very, very clearly is all about him. It even makes me kind of change how I viewed the whole Fast and Furious situation, because publicly Diesel sort of painted that, or Diesel has been painted as the bad guy in that situation. And while I don't think Vin Diesel is probably the easiest guy to work with either, part of me now thinks that Dwayne Johnson may have also had a hand in causing issues, especially when you think about the fact that the only Fast and Furious film in the franchise that's not focused on either Brian or Vin in any way, shape, or form is Hobbs and Shaw, the one that's focused on Dwayne Johnson that he pushed for a franchise with. Yeah, there's a lot here. Austin, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on essentially the boiled down idea being Dwayne Johnson attempted to block any connection between Black Adam?
Wasn't there a thing where he was also lobbying to like take over the creative control of the DC universe at one point? Yep. Like he was like, I want to be like the guy pushing all the characters and like be like one of the creative heads of the storytelling or whatever. That was like a couple of months ago. I remember seeing that too.
And that would be tied into this, where he attempted to make his pitch of him and Superman being leads. Yeah. I left this detail out, but purportedly the reason that he made, because for anyone who saw DC League of Super Pets, that post-credit scene is also Superman and Krypto facing off against Black Adam and his super dog. And apparently Johnson did that to sort of plant the idea in people's minds that Black Adam and Superman are foes.
Yeah.
Like, it was very calculated.
Well, here's the problem in the first place. The Black Adam character is a very niche character. He's not one of the Justice League. He's not one of the A-listers. He just isn't. He's an antagonist for either Superman or Shazam, depending on the comic book character. The only time we had ever even seen him on a screen was, if anybody remembers that one animated anthology film that DC did, Superman, Shazam, Black Adam. It was like but it was a short story as a part of 4 other stories. The claim to fame that Black Adam is he's the other magical antagonist, sort of like reverse Flash to Flash. You know, he's the reverse of Shazam. You know, he's like the bad guy version of Shazam. So you're taking a character that's already risky, that people, your casual fans who know who even the casual fans of superhero movies or comic books know who the members of the Justice League are. They may not know like Martian Manhunter per se or something, but they're going to know the Trinity, you know, your Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and then your Green Lantern, you know, things like that. Like, they're going to know that. Like, most people, unless you're a deep dive person or you're deep into the comic book world, are not going to know who Black Adam is. So I always thought they definitely should have introduced him. If you're going to do that at all, he should have either been introduced in a Superman movie or a Shazam movie, period. Like, to jump right to a solo film, that, and also the film itself tries to play this. You know, he's not an antagonist. He's not really like a protagonist. He's a tweener, as we call in the wrestling world. It's like whatever he needs to be.
An anti-hero, so
an
to speak.
anti-hero, but that works for stuff like Punisher. You know, like, but in this one, he needs to be a villain first. Maybe he turns into a hero later. Maybe after you've already had a movie with him where he's been an antagonist and a villain. But yeah, you needed to introduce him in something bigger. He could have even been if they had ever done a Man of Steel 2, we could have introduced that, because one of Superman's big things, his weaknesses, is magic and stuff that Shazam deals in. The world that they deal in, that's one of his weaknesses, is you can take him out with magic. So it should have been done that way. That is, like you said, Aaron, I think Dwayne Johnson's ego is starting to creep out, and people are starting to realize that he's not this, like, maybe in interviews and thinks he's a very nice guy, whatever, but behind the scenes, when he's had this creative control. And to be honest, what's been his biggest movie? Black Adam, and that made $400 million. When you look at his actual filmography, he's not as big a star as he thinks he is.
No,
he really isn't. Like,
the only metric by which you can measure that he's a big star is he's a part of the Fast and Furious franchise,
an already established franchise when he came in Fast 5. It was already established.
Other than that, I believe he's one of the top 5 most followed people on Instagram. Like, outside of that, like, no, his metrics don't translate to box office success in the way that he thinks they do. It really has, like, reading into all of this, it really has changed how I view him as a producer, because you're right, it's 100% ego. You're essentially trying to proposition Black Adam into the Batman role in the DC universe by taking what is mostly an antagonist, making him a protagonist, but also developing a rivalry with
C-level character when you look at the comic books. Yeah. He's like my metric I go by, I have these 2 big encyclopedias. There's a Marvel encyclopedia and a DC encyclopedia. You guys have probably seen them in a bookstore here and there or online. I got one right on my shelf down here. The way they measure, like, how big a character is or how important his comic books is how many pages he gets of description, of backstory, of storyline history, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have a DC version too, Jordan. Yeah, but it's the same thing. Black Adam has like a page, you know, as opposed to the biggest one, your Superman, your Batmans have like 9-10 pages of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, literally, like almost like an entire chapter. Black Adam has a page, 1 page. You know, like, you have to look at it that way. It's a character that, again, hardcore comic book fans are going to know and want to see as an antagonist. They'd be excited for that. But yeah, when you're jumping right to a solo film and thinking it's going to be like the biggest thing since a Batman movie or something, your ego is inflated. It just is. And then you put out a mediocre movie at best, anyways. You know what I mean? That had barely
mediocre. I thought it was bad.
I thought the action was well done, but there was no substance behind the action, if that makes sense.
Zero character.
There's no character development whatsoever. It was just action for the sake of action for 2 hours. It was nonstop foot on the gas action, which, again, some of it's well done and it's shot well and things like that, but there's no character development at all. It's just here's Black Adam and he's fighting. You know, there you go.
Mehdi?
I honestly agree with a lot of what Austin and you have said. It's just so you're right. Dwayne Johnson's probably gotten a little bit too big, and he's like starting to think, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. You can't. I wish that he would have tried to take on the villain role. I'm not sure if this is entirely true, but doesn't he have like a thing of like, oh, he can only get beat up for a certain amount of time before he
in his contracts, how many hits he can take. Yes.
Yeah, really? Something like that.
Yeah. Where his fight with Vin Diesel was completely 50-50 in Fast 5. That was in the contract.
Because they both have that fucking stipulation in their contract.
And it's why basically any fight in the Fast and Furious films, when he takes on Statham, he gets away. It's why he's never been definitively defeated on screen.
Yes.
The thing is, I think this is going back to his wrestling days where he was, you know, the champ for so long and all that. I think I would much prefer, and I think he has the range to do it, he just hasn't gone there yet, to actually play a villain.
Yes.
Like, have him play Black Adam because when a little bit of WWE here, but when he did his like heel turn for it wasn't that long, but he was a heel for maybe a few months or whatever it was. He was really good. he wasn't The Rock as we know him, but he was really good. And he's done smaller movies like Faster and Stealth. No, not Stealth.
Snitch.
Snitch.
Yeah.
Where it's like a smaller movie, and he's not necessarily like a good guy, but
He's a shade of gray character.
He's a shade of gray character, and he plays it really well.
Yes.
I want to see him go there more, and I think as an actor, he could have done it in Black Adam, but instead he's kind of gotten into this thing where he's like, nah, I'm the people's champ, I'm the hero, I have to be the hero. If I'm not the hero, then I'll be like just off to the side of a hero sort of thing. Shazam and Black Adam are like two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other, and for them to have this whole thing where it's like, all right, you're having one, but he has to be separate from the other. It's like, if he want, a lot of what The Rock says is like, all right, we're doing this for the people, we're doing this for the fans. The fans want to see those two on screen, man. Like that's let's be 100% honest here. Like any DC fan worth his salt, if you say the word Shazam, the second word that comes out is Black. And then
and fans got excited at the potential of Rock being a villain Black because he can be intimidating.
When he said I'm going to be playing Black Adam, I was all in because I want to see him play a villain.
Yes.
I want to see him get into a fight with Shazam because that would be awesome. The prospect of Superman, that whole thing, I'm not going to go into because it's like, all right, they were switching studios, there was all this other stuff.
Sure.
Who knows what the actual plan is going to be now. But the only way these two characters are going to succeed from here, because both these movies have not made money. The only way these two succeed is if they're in like an ensemble thing and they have to face off and they have to go head to head. For us to get a Black Adam versus Shazam off screen behind the scenes instead of having it on the screen, which is what we should have had last week, 2 weeks ago. Like, what are we doing? Like, it's right there. You guys don't like each other or whatever it is between them. Have that animosity come out on screen, have them fight, give the fans what they really want to see, and then we can keep going forward and just like, all right, yeah, it was there. They're honestly, it's just childish behavior of like, no, I don't want to be the bad guy. Like, it's like when you're a kid and you're like, I don't want to play Darth Maul, I want to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, they're both cool characters when you're older, but it's like at that point, it's like, no, I only want to be
also the same in the wrestling business. What's good for business as a whole? What's better for the business? What's better to sell tickets, to move things? What you need to be the team player of like, this doesn't work if we don't work together and make something greater. If one guy, if you have a wrestling match and one guy just wants to get his shit in and refuses to put the other guy over, or refuses to give the guy anything else, to take some wrestling terms again, but whatever, like the match will fall apart and it'll be a disaster. The people, they have to work together. And I think if he had looked at the bigger picture and said, if I play this villain in like an ensemble movie, in a Shazam movie, whatever, do this villain thing, maybe eventually become a hero, have a character arc, and be part of that bigger ensemble of a greater Justice Society or Justice League or whatever. And then, but you've already boosted and he's done the interesting part, like what that would have been better for business, for the bigger picture. You got to look at the big picture, and he's not looking at the big picture. He's just looking at what's best for him.
And that's exactly it. I think his bigger picture was, I can be a leading face of a superhero franchise. And then as DC continued to fall apart during the production of this film, I think it was, I can be the guy that saves the universe. I can be the guy that takes it forward. The Snyder fans want Henry Cavill back. I can be the guy who brings Henry Cavill back. I think he saw the bigger picture as all the glory for himself. Because let's be real, maybe this is my own opinion, I'm going to single-handedly place all the difficulty that this James Gunn situation has brought on The Rock. Because if The Rock doesn't go and bully his way past Walter Hamada and get into Michael DeLuca's ear, who, by the way, was not the one calling the shots with DC. He was the studio head at Warner, but he's not the one specifically, because Zaslav personally is handling DC. But if he didn't bully his way past Hamada, if he didn't push himself into DeLuca's head, if he didn't push for Henry Cavill to come back, nobody would have gotten excited over it because everybody had accepted the fact that it wasn't going to happen. And so I think you can announce a reboot when time comes and you can move forward. Because, like, truthfully, I don't think Gunn would have announced any projects moving forward if this hadn't happened. Because the problem is, quietly, behind the scenes, you could have just set up for the fact that you're going to be rebooting and retooling moving forward and not
wait until after Aquaman to say all that.
Right.
To where you're
But the
not
problem
killing,
is
you're not
Dwayne
killing, you're not
Johnson.
dealing with dead franchises at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Movies that are dead ends.
You killed all these
They're funny
franchises
ones.
because of it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
And so,
That's
and
not
what I'm
like-
saying is, I think personally that The Rock is responsible for what's happened, and I think he's made it worse. Because if you didn't, because it's not just the fact that he put Cavill in the film, it's the fact that he's out here publicly boasting about the fact that Henry's coming back. We're gonna do this. This is the future of DC. You have no fucking say, dude. You have no fucking say. You are in way over your head. And you are ruining things for the people that are trying to actually set the strip straight. And so now the problem is you have to come out and clear the air and say, no, Henry, the plan was not to have Henry return. This was something The Rock did of his own volition. Because there wasn't a creative in place to say yes or no. You know what I mean? Like, if The Rock hadn't acted up the way that he had acted, there's a chance that Dan Lin may have taken that job before James Gunn took it. And maybe Dan Lin wanted Henry Cavill to come back. We'll never know because The Rock went and did what he did. And I think he's just made this so much worse. And now, retroactively, I think he has killed all chances of him returning to DC because Black Adam underperformed even before any of this started. And now his actions have helped contribute to Shazam's underperformance at the box office. Because publicly,
I don't know if Black Adam or Dwayne Johnson had any effect on Black Adam or Shazam's box office. Like this movie, say Black Adam.
I would say not all of it, but I would say some of it. Because think about it, how many
$2 million worth?
How many fans of geek shut up, Henry. How many fans of geek projects would like the problem is so you're right. There's probably a good chance that this movie still fails. But
because they didn't market it right.
Does it get a little more over the line if it's not publicly aware that this is a dead franchise?
I think you get giving public too much credit, man. Like most people don't know this shit. Like
maybe.
Like I'm a big DC fan. I'm in this sphere and all this stuff. I'm living with my girlfriend, and if I don't tell her stuff, she doesn't know that James Gunn is running DC.
Yeah, but the public
she found out James Gunn was running DC when someone at the theater told her.
But the general public didn't show up for the movie, though.
No, the general public didn't show up for the movie. But that's my point. Like the general public didn't show up for the movie because the marketing was not great, and also because there's like 30 other movies.
Marketing wasn't great.
The first trailer I thought was bad. I thought the first
trailer. We have John Wick coming out this week. We have Dungeons and Dragons coming out next week.
Next week, then Mario,
and then Mario's coming out. We just had Scream 6.
As I said in the opening, we're off the back of four weeks in a row because. And technically it was 5 films because all 5 major releases over the last few weeks, even though 65 definitely is not going to make its money back, all 5 of them overshot projections. Exactly. Ant-Man opened to wider than its projections, so did Cocaine Bear, so did Creed, so did Scream, so did 65.
Creed is another one. Creed was #1 at the box office, and now like it's had a drop-off, obviously, but that's because anyone who's going to the movies is like, oh, there's so many more options. We've had so long where nothing was in theaters, and now we have like this whole like it's only March, and we have so many things in the theaters that we're like, oh, I want to see that, I want to see that, I want to see that, I want to see that. Shazam is one of those things like, well, it's not marketed right, and then people are just like, well, you know, we just had Ant-Man. I'm done with superheroes for the next little while. I don't need to worry about it. I don't think that there's going to be another. Guardians, I think, will be the next superhero movie that comes out, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. And then after that, it's The Flash. Both of those, I think, will do better, but that's also because, you know, Guardians has that, you know, running behind it. Shazam, the first one, was a small movie that made money, but it made money because it had a small budget. Guardians is going to be big, but it also is going to be making its money back because it's that big franchise and it's possibly saying goodbye to all.
Well, and I think people know it's going to be the last of the Guardians movies in general. So, like, I think they're going to show out.
I don't think Shazam. I don't think a lot of Shazam's box office issues were because of The Rock or any of the Black Adam stuff or anything like that. I think, or anything to do with James Gunn or like this shift in DC. I think it was mainly because there's so much in theaters. People don't really care about Shazam for the most part. Like if I go down the street and ask 20 people, "Hey, do you know who Shazam is?" Most of them will be like, "Isn't that superhero guy, the lightning one?" And like maybe some of them will know. He's not Superman. He's not Batman. He's not a big name guy.
No.
And also, like again, I'm going back to this. Most people on the street don't know James Gunn, and they definitely don't know he's in charge of DC now. They're just like, "Oh, okay, well, they're making movies. I'll see them when they come out." Like we're kind of in this bubble where we think everyone knows this stuff, but like as big of a story that Ezra Miller stuff was, nobody knows that that they were like going through all this stuff. They're just like,
and
I
you're
don't
right.
know, I've seen him in that movie.
Part of it may just be like on a personal level, like especially as somebody who is a creative who runs my own thing, I just don't like people like The Rock. I don't like that approach to things.
That's fair. Yeah.
So that's part of it. You're right. I actually think you're 100% correct in your assessment of it. That's I think you're speaking more sense than necessarily I was in that moment. But you're also
back
right
on that a little bit. Just
I agree that The Rock shouldn't be behaving this way. But I don't think he's had any effect on the box office, like any major, maybe a couple $1 million back.
So I do just because it's been mostly the three of us, but I do want to move on to one other thing before we end the show.
Let Jordan get 1 point. He didn't get
and then we'll move on.
Oh yeah, sorry.
One quick point. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I actually completely disagree with all that. Like, I think that because of The Rock going over Walter Hamada's head, then you have them having to completely change up management. Then you have James Gunn coming in, taking over, and maybe not a lot of people might not know exactly who James Gunn is, but he went out on all of his social media, went on Instagram, Twitter, all the social media, and he announced these things. He announced all the project, whereas in the past you didn't have the heads of the studios coming out making these huge matches. Announcement. I mean, you'll have little things where they have the little.
So that's all that DC did.
But I mean, but still, like he came out and he made some pretty big announcements that are like widely known. I think that like everyone that I talk to in my circle, they know that they're like, oh, they're going in a new direction, and I asked people if they want to go see Shazam, and they said no because it doesn't connect, doesn't have anything to do with it. Like this franchise is just dead, and like why am I going to go see this? And then. Like I've always been confused from the beginning. Why isn't Black Adam more connected with Shazam? Aren't they characters that are supposed to go hand in hand? Why is it so separated? Why is The Rock doing these things separately? It just never really made any sense to me. And I'm someone who's like pretty in the loop about a lot of these things, and like it just never really made any sense. And I think that like more and more the superheroes or the superhero movies are becoming more and more the mainstream thing that a lot of people do know. Like you underestimate people. I think that like the people know more about this stuff than you really think so. And like I
don't know, man.
I think that there's a lot of word of mouth. There's a lot of.
I would say just because we don't have the time to go into the counterpoint complete argument of it. I would say. I think it falls somewhere I would imagine it falls somewhere in the middle ground, because there are the people, and I can say this for a fact. I know the people that Medea are describing, and I know the people that Jordan are describing. I know both.
Because in my opinion, he killed Shazam. He killed the Flash.
To throw
he
an
killed
example,
Aquaman. He killed all of those. They're dead.
One of my coworkers.
You can trace it back to The Rock, I think.
One of my coworkers is a huge film fan. Like, he's seen all the Oscar movies. He has no interest in Marvel or DC. And even though he's a huge film fan, he looks into film news, he's into all of that stuff. He can't tell you anything about what's happening with Marvel and DC. And so I think that there's a level of both. There's a level of some people just don't know. They just go and see the cool big things. Some people, yeah, I think it's a bit of both. All right, so there's been a lot of great discussion, and if it wasn't for the fact that I don't want to overlap Papa's birthday event because it was already something that was pre-planned, I don't want to overlap it. So instead of going on to any of the other news stories, just because, like, I'm going to save the Victoria Alonso thing for next week for sure, because there's a whole nother discussion in that and the way that shook out.
A whole lot of news will come out for that too, probably.
I'm sure there will be more. So what I'm going to do is I've sent out the link. We're going to have Jake Tato joining us in just a moment. So we're going to jump into the game. So if you guys have, since it's a different panel of people than last week, I wanted to play this game with you guys. So if you all have something that you can write on a whiteboard or just a notebook paper, just go ahead and pull something out really quickly.
Uh-huh. I always have my whiteboard ready for spontaneous trivia.
I don't know if I have my whiteboard anymore,
last
but I
week
have
it was
my,
almost in sync. All of them just were able to pull something out. Like
Well, I've got a
naturally.
desk in me, so I just literally keep it inside the desk right here. Like it's
I'm
ready
just gonna
to
pull
roll.
out my notebook for my hospital rounds and then just pull out the page later on.
All right. So we have.
Am I allowed to consult
Okay.
my Marvel encyclopedia I have sitting next to you, or no? Is that not allowed?
No. Well, I don't
Okay.
think it would actually help you all that much, but no.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair.
I might actually go after we're off stream or off the air and go get my DC one and see exactly how many pages Black Adam has because I know it ain't as much as.
I bet you it's just the one page. I have
It
it
might
here
just
somewhere
be,
too.
but I'll look it up and I'll see because I know exactly.
You have that
what it
like
is.
DC encyclopedia thing, like the
Oh yeah,
hardcover?
that's what I'm saying. DC,
Yeah.
I have both of them. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I have
Yeah.
mine.
All right. So we'll go ahead and jump into this. So Jake will be in here in just a moment. He can join in once he's here. So the way that this works is essentially, I don't have a fancy title for it yet because I don't plan anything out that much. Most of my time is spent reading hate stories on The Rock. So what we're going to be doing is you guys are going to be guessing the title of the film based on the cast. So because this week was all comic book centric, specifically today was Shazam centric, all of these are going to be comic book films unless specified, and I'll get to what that means in a moment.
Oh no. Okay.
But these are all going to be in the world of sort of comic book based movies. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the cast out. I'm going to start with the first member that I'll list is essentially a cameo, all the way up to the lead build actor being the last one listed. There are 10 names. When you have a guess ready, just say your name and I'll let you guess. Once you guess, you can't guess again until everybody has gone. All right. So does that make sense?
So half of them are gonna be like Stanley, and then like
Yeah.
No, I left Stanley out on
Stanley.
purpose.
Okay.
rest in peace. All right.
All right. So are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. So
Plato's joining us.
he is. He's taking a second just to get
Are we
ready.
still
and
write
hop
it
in,
down
'cause
and
he's
then call
going-
her name, or what do? Or like how does it?
So once you think you have the movie, just say your name.
Okay.
And the points are awarded based on how quickly you get it. So, like for example, if you get it on the first name, that's 10 points. Second one, 9 points, so on and so forth. Okay.
I see.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
All right.
So because we're limited on time, I am going to run through the names just a bit quicker. So once I see that none of you have a guess ready, I'm going to move on. Okay.
All right.
All right, here we go. So the first film, first actor, Skylar Gizondo.
The fuck is that?
All right, here we go. So
Sounds
Tato
vaguely
has
familiar.
hopped in.
What up, big guy?
Ooh.
All right, Tato's joined in for the game. Jake, so what we're going to be doing is you are guessing the film based off the cast. I'm going to read 10 names off the cast list going from cameo to main character. When you have a guess ready, just say your name. If you guess and you're incorrect, you can't guess until everybody else has, okay? All right, so the first name, I said it. So I'm going to give the second name, even though he just joined in. So the first name was Skylar Gizondo. And by the way, these are all geek films, I should say.
Okay.
So yeah, you can think geek films, comic book films specifically. The second actor is Michael Papajohn.
Papa John's.
Michael Papa John's?
Yeah,
I actually know who that is.
P-A-P-A-J-O-H-N. One word. Papajohn.
I'm actually aware of who that is as an actor. Surprisingly.
No way.
I don't know who that is.
All right.
That guy must make
Third
bank
actor.
on advertisements.
Third actor, Max Charles.
No idea.
Tato.
Go ahead.
Is this the Dark Knight?
That is incorrect. All right. So now it's up to Austin, Madi, and Jordan. Any guesses, guys? We're moving on.
Move on.
Okay. Fourth actor, C. Thomas Howell.
Ooh, that's a big
Getting
clue.
warmer.
Pony boy.
All right.
Uh,
Fifth actor. No guesses?
Mm-mm.
All right. Fifth actor, Chris Zalka.
Don't know who that is.
All right. Sixth actor, Irfan Khan.
Oh,
That's familiar.
oh, it's a comic book movie.
Yes.
Oh no, god damn it! All right, hang on, I'll get it in a minute.
All right. Seventh actor, Dennis Leary.
Jordan,
Yeah, I got
Jordan?
you.
the Amazing Spider-Man.
That's correct. All right.
Good pull.
Michael Papa John is the safety for the cons in The Longest Yard.
Is that one of the sponsors for the Amazing Spider-Man, Papa John's?
All right. So that'll be so that one, because you got on the seventh name, that's worth, or no, sorry, the other way around. It's worth 4 points.
I was gonna say it should be worth 4 points, not 7 points.
Yeah, it's worth. Listen, man, I'm doing quick math. So it's worth 4 points. The remaining 3 names would have been Martin Sheen, Reese Ifans, and Andrew Garfield.
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
So
okay.
moving on. Second movie, first name Kirk Allen.
This is like the
Second name Sarah Douglas. Third name Mark McClure.
Ooh, I know who that is.
No guesses?
No.
All right. Fourth name Phyllis Thaxter. Fifth name Terrence Stamp.
Terrence Stamp.
Austin.
Go ahead.
Superman 2.
That's incorrect.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Thanks for taking the bullet.
Well,
All right.
I gotta take
Sixth
steps.
actor Glenn Ford.
Tato.
Tato.
Superman 3.
That is incorrect. All right, so it's down to Medee or Jordan to get it correct or get it wrong to reset.
Is it
Seventh
Superman?
actor.
Or sorry, Medee.
Go ahead.
Is it Superman?
That is correct.
The original Superman movie?
Wrong way.
I
All right,
jaded.
so that is going to be
I was trying
5
to think.
points
I
to
don't
Medee.
remember
book
if
with
Getting
Terrence
on the
Stamp
sixth
had
name.
a, had a role in
Oh.
the first one.
Terrence
Yeah,
Stamp
okay.
is a damn cameo in the original. He should be way down the list.
That's what I was
Way
thinking. I was
down
like, I
the
don't remember if he's in the original.
All right, here we go.
Apparently.
All right, moving on. Well, remember, it's also in order of how they're billed.
I know.
Oh,
Terrence
yeah.
Stamp is a
Okay.
cameo. He should be like 8th build.
He
Yeah.
he should be 8th. He was what, 6th? Yeah, close enough. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Third film.
Mm.
First actor, Bill Hader. Second actor, Keita Saito. All right. Third actor, Satya Baba. Fourth actor, Kieran Culkin.
Oh,
Jordan.
Medee. Yeah.
All right, I heard Jordan first.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
That is correct.
That's the one.
All right, so you got that in 4, so that is going to be 7 points,
Good pull.
which will take you up to 11. We'll go ahead and jump
I was about to guess
into.
one of the Ninja Turtles movies. Did he do a
Yeah.
voice in like that TMNT shit or something like that?
Maybe.
For what it's worth, the remaining names, I basically just listed the X's in credit order for the rest of them.
Yeah.
Ryan around.
Yeah. Fun fact: did you know that Chris Evans is 4th build in this movie? I didn't until I looked it up.
The track.
All right, here we go.
Big names
Fourth
get
film.
big higher bill, I guess.
4th film. First actor, Damien Poitier. Second actor, Alexis Denisov. Third actor, Maximiliano Hernandez.
Medee.
Go ahead.
Is it Black Panther Wakanda Forever?
It is not. All right, so Medee is out. Any other guesses before we move on to the 4th name? All right. 4th name, Colby Smulders.
Oh, fuck, thanks. That's a good name, but
Yeah.
5th
Be a
name,
lot of things.
Samuel L. Jackson.
they're always together.
Yeah.
6th name, Gwyneth Paltrow. 7th name, Scarlett Johansson.
Jordan.
I heard Austin first.
Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
That is incorrect. Jordan?
You say Iron Man 2.
That is incorrect. So, Tato, it is up to you. Do Do you want to guess, or do you want to guess to potentially reset it if you're wrong, or do you want the 8th name?
I will guess Iron Man 3.
That is incorrect. All right, so everybody's back in.
Okay.
All right. 8th name, Chris Hemsworth.
Mehdi.
Mehdi?
Age of Ultron.
That is incorrect. 9th name, Clark Gregg.
This isn't helping.
Tato.
Yeah, it's not.
Tato?
Oh, it's not
Avengers.
Yeah.
Avengers is correct, yes.
Shoot.
Clark Gregg is the actor who plays Coulson. That's why he's
Coulson.
second to last, because it'd be a giveaway if you know that.
Yeah.
All right, so Tato, for that one, you'll pick up 2 points. Robert Downey Jr. as the highest billed actor would have been the final credit. Okay.
Where's everybody else, though?
Yeah.
I picked 10 names out of the cast.
Oh, you didn't make it out like that.
Yeah, you didn't make it like
I said I- yes, I
you didn't
did. I
order
said
they
I
were
picked-
billed.
Okay, so where's
I
Tom
picked-
Hiddleston? Where's Mark
I
Ruffalo?
picked 10 actors
where's
out of the
Chris
cast and
Evans?
credit them in the order they're billed.
Right then, so Robert Downey Jr.'s top, and then it's Clark Gregg. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
No,
doesn't make any sense.
okay,
Wait,
so
Clark
there
Gregg
is,
billed
there
above
is
Chris
some
Hemsworth is a
level
bigger
of
question.
subjectiveness to how it's been ranked. I moved Clark Gregg ahead because Clark Gregg's only in phase 1, so if I put him earlier, it'd be a dead giveaway.
Okay, that was not explained at all
Yeah.
whatsoever.
All right,
on.
well, we're killing time
Semantics.
arguing. Moving on.
I thought you were literally going by like IMDb or like Leonard Maltin's
No, there's
guidelines
some
game.
subjectiveness to it to make it hard.
Okay, you did not make that clear whatsoever
Yeah.
in this game. I'm just saying that for the record. You did not make
Come on,
that
man.
clear
We
at all.
had
That
no
it's
Emma
subjective.
Stone
I'm gonna
and
give you
Spider-Man.
whatever names I want out of a hat out of the 10. Like that's I don't know. I'm just saying.
They're
That's
all in the
frustrating.
cast list. I said I picked 10 names out of the cast list. For the most part, they're credited from cameo to lead actor being the last.
No, I'm gonna watch the replay. You definitely didn't say that, but all right, Samantha,
All right.
that's fine. I'm
Cameo
gonna
to
watch the
lead
replay.
actor, but you're missing
So-
a lot of lead actors in these movies.
Yeah.
Someone hasn't been
Yeah.
watching the other shows.
That's because it's supposed to be a challenge, boys. Okay, we're losing minutes. Moving on. All right. These next couple of films, I'm going to go through a little quicker. These next few films, they are, in air quotes, superhero movies. So they're not comic book films. They're not traditional superhero films. But if you think about it, they're kind of superhero movies.
Okay.
Fast
Okay.
and Furious. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, here
Wait.
we go. First film, first actor, John Noble. Second actor, Randall Duke Kim. Third actor, Cliff Curtis. Fourth actor, Noah Ringer.
Jordan.
Go ahead.
Shang-Chi?
That is incorrect.
I feel like that's a comic book movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Or a
Yeah.
superhero-
Yeah,
a
that-
superhero movie. Yeah.
That's
Fifth
fair.
actor, Seychelles Gabriel.
Sorry, say that one again.
Tato,
Seychelles Gabriel. Tato,
The Last Airbender.
that is correct.
Oh, fuck off. That's not a movie.
Yeah.
Think about it. It is a
Barely
superhero
a
movie.
barely
That's
a
not even a
Superhero?
movie.
All right.
I don't
so
know
that
if I
was
qualify
worth
that as a
6
movie.
Points.
Yeah.
So you're up to 8 now, Tato. I'm going to keep going until I see Jacob send out the link. I have it literally in front of me.
Okay.
All right, here we go. 6th film, same concept. So I'll let you know when we go back to straight comic book movies. All right.
Okay.
And for what it's worth, again, the subjectiveness of how I ranked them. Noah Ringer played Aang. He just only did 2 movies. So that's either you know it or you don't. There's no point in sticking him at the end.
Yeah.
I just know Seychelles Gabriel is in both the movie and the show. So
All right, here we go. Fuck, I just gave it away.
Oh, he just
Tato.
Oh.
Transformers the movie.
All right, no. So we're going to move on from that one. Then I gave that one away. All right, here we go. I have others. Okay, so this one is the same thing. This is subjective, okay? So this is superhero in quotes. First actor, Yorma Taccone. Or Jorma Taccone, as most people mispronounce it.
Austin.
Second actor, Ben Schwartz.
Pez.
Austin. Austin.
I just didn't hear you in general. I'm sorry.
You went before Schwartz.
You said it for the first one?
Okay. Yeah.
You said it.
Go ahead.
Hot Rod.
That's incorrect.
Okay.
But I like where you're thinking.
Himself kind of a superhero in that movie.
I like where you're thinking. No, I like where your head's at.
Okay.
He has the power of the house cat and all the other spirit animals.
Spirit animals, yeah.
Because there was a bit of a mix-up there.
Jordan
What,
looks like he
do you want
wants
to
to
guess?
Yeah. I'm gonna say the Lego Movie.
That is incorrect.
Oh.
All right, so the first two names were Dorma Taccone and Ben Schwartz. Right now, Jake and Medee, you're the only two in. All right. Third name, Jonah Hill.
That's the Lego Movie.
Fourth name, Rafe Fiennes.
The Lego Movie.
Oh, Medee.
Go ahead.
Lego Batman movie.
That is incorrect.
Oh,
God
okay.
damn it.
Jake, it's up to
That had
you.
to be it.
More
right.
names.
Fifth name, Will Ferrell. Sixth
Tato.
name. Okay, before I said it. So Tato on 5.
Lego Movie, the second part.
That is correct.
Oh,
I
this close.
And,
I forgot that there was a
for
second
the
part.
remainder of the cast, Brooklyn Prince, Allison Brie, Charlie Day, Tiffany Haddish, Chris Pratt.
Oh, that'd have done nothing for me. I went at the right time.
All right, so Tato, you got that in 5 names, so that's going to be worth 6 points. So with that, you will take the lead. All right, so we're going because I fucked up and gave the Transformers one away. We're going back to comic book films. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So these are comic book movies. All right. First name, John Glover.
Austin.
Go ahead.
Batman and Robin.
That is incorrect.
Damn, I would have loved that.
I took a stab at it. Because he's in the beginning of that movie.
He is.
So, yeah.
Mm.
Second name, Cooper Andrews. Third name, Jovan Armand. Fourth name, Ross Butler. Fifth name, Michelle Borth.
Hold on. Medee.
Go ahead.
Is this not Shazam, the first one?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Specifically made a point to list multiple of these actors earlier. The remaining actors would have been Faith Herman, Jaimin Hansu, Mark Strong, Jack Dylan Grazer, and Asher Angel.
Okay.
Okay.
Because he actually, in that film, he receives co-billing, I believe, with Zach Levi. So he is
Good
technically.
for him.
If it
Then
was
he
Batman
dropped
and
off
Robin,
in
that
the
would have been fucking epic.
That would have been hilarious.
No, that would have been awesome. All right, so Medee, for that you pick up 6 points because you got it on the 5th one, so that'll put you.
And it would have made
at
sense
11.
because he's only in like the first 10 minutes of that movie, and then he dies. But yeah, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to stick Glover in there because for the most part, with the exception of the main antagonists, all the characters are the same. Glover is Mark Strong's father.
Yeah.
So he is technically.
I forgot about that.
All right, here we go.
He's in that movie.
Second to last film before we end it, because at this point we'll just do the 2. All right, first actor, Chris Pine.
Oh, Medee.
Go ahead.
Is it Wanted?
That is incorrect.
Damn.
All right. Second
Oh,
film.
no.
or
I'm
second
thinking
actor.
of the wrong
excuse me.
Chris.
Oscar Isaac.
Tato.
Go ahead.
Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse.
That is correct.
Yeah. I was thinking the wrong Chris.
Chris Pratt is the one that's in Wanted.
I almost went, but I just wanted one more for confirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Because it could have been Wonder Woman, maybe.
All right. So with that, this final one is just for fun. Tato has 1 at this point. Nobody can get there, but let's play one more for fun.
Well, I ate ass in this game.
Nothing wrong with being ass, man.
But you did a great job at arguing semantics, which is why you're the number 1 contender in movie battle.
Right. I'm good at arguing semantics and challenging bullshit.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So, final film. First actor, Ken Leung.
Austin.
Go ahead.
Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
That is incorrect. Second actor.
Why not? To get on the board.
Second actor.
Jordan.
Okay, go ahead.
X-Men: The Last Stand.
On one actor, that is correct. Yes.
Yes, he's got the spiky thing
damn.
that come out of his face.
Yeah, because
Yep.
I know who that is.
Yeah.
He's the guy in the original Saw. He's in Force Awakens.
Good enough for a
I know
combo.
who it is. And the only reason I say it is because he's one of the panel guys in the Avengers and Winter Soldier, like the hologram people, that they consult, like one of the
Oh yeah.
So I took a stab at it because he's in there
I
too.
tried to be, and I feel bad, Austin, because more than once
Yeah.
you fell into the trap. I tried to be specific with who I put first because I was looking for who's cameoed before another.
No,
film.
I understand you're going for people that have been in like multiple comic book movies. I get it, but I was just at that point I'm just taking a stab to try to fucking get the points. You know what I mean?
For what it's worth, the remaining 9 actors, since we got it in one, would have been Eric Dane, Ben Foster, Elliot Page, Patrick Stewart, Aaron Stanford, Kelsey Grammer, Anna Paquin, Holly Berry, and Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, if you
What
said
a
that,
cast.
and then Ben Foster, because he's Angel in that movie, I would have got it on that for sure.
Yeah, there's a couple of those actors that are only in one X-Men film, so I threw those in there.
No, I know. Yeah, he's the prickly guy, the porcupine guy in that movie. Yep. Yeah, I know exactly who he is in that movie. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All
right, guys. So with that said,
everything I do.
I hope you guys enjoyed. Last week's people enjoyed the game. Aside from Austin arguing semantics, I hope you guys enjoyed the game. Well, Austin, I don't know if you enjoyed it, but I hope everyone else did. I'm gonna try and come up with other games and other ideas as well, just to sort of make the show not just news. But today was awesome, Tato. I know we invited you on. Sorry you couldn't be here for most of it, but thank you for showing up. So guys, be sure to, first off, because we have both of them here, go over, check out some of the stuff that the Movie Hero Network does, support them as well. Check out Austin's #1 contender match if you haven't seen it, because even though we've spoiled that he won in excellent fashion. So do tune in and check that out, because it also supports the show. Tune in next week as we're going to be doing, again, continuing this incredible run of films. We're going to be doing a John Wick spoiler discussion. Thankfully, not as much controversy around that film, so we won't have to spend the whole show on it. But we will be talking about how awesome it is, in addition to other topics. And that will be that. So on behalf of everyone here, thank you guys, Austin, Jordan, Madi, Jake. Thank you guys for joining. And on behalf of myself and Matt, who's normally here, I will see you guys next week. Take care.
Rest in peace, Lance Reddick.